dance around the city. A mansion, a white robe, a crown tailor-made just to fit me. I'm looking tighter than Sean, better known as P. Diddy. Get off your seat with me and move your feet swiftly, giving glory to the Father, cause we going to his city. A place with no sin and no difference in men and women. Time not existing, we be forever living. Nothing's gonna stop me from getting what he's given. I'm living what he's written. Got his words imprinted, reading sentence after sentence with no errors in them. Okay, I better stop before I get turned up.
People don't know about Knox. People don't know about the Knox.
Who is that? Is that
That's me.
That's Knox.
Oh, yeah,
Knox, he wrote those lyrics,
Back in
man.
the day, I used to write, you know.
He used to spit a little bit. There you go. Give me a glass. Give me a glass. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. It's good to be with you on YouTube. That's right. We love you. Campus Preacher Keith.
Still working on that.
Chuck Knox. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do.
Is that what it was? You just
And I'm the water boy. It's Friday.
Yes,
it's
is.
Friday. A couple days before America's birthday.
Happy birthday,
July
America.
4th. Happy birthday, America.
Two-time world champion.
Happy
World War
birthday,
champion.
America. I've been on the job 24/7. Yeah, it's 24 days a month, 7 months a year.
Okay.
You know, 24/7. You ever one of the things that worry me the most about that axis of evil. That's one of the creeds. I don't know which one, but it's one of the creeds, axis of evil.
Yeah.
Terrorists.
You know where I'm going. You know where I'm going.
Terrorists.
Terrorists.
I don't know what you guys are doing right now, but I'm sure it's
George
Bush.
W. Bush.
Oh,
Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
The W.
Why?
The W.
Terrorists.
I've been on the job 24/7.
I've been
24 days a week, 7 months a year.
I've been known to slur a slobble or two. Remember you can get one of those? Man, I do impersonations.
I like
I
to-
got millions of them.
Oh, really? Come on, keep somebody else.
They're so horrible.
I like to-
I got to do it with confidence.
I like to
Just do it with
attribute my success to frequent catnaps. I almost got you to spit it out.
Don't y'all start.
Oh, man.
Yesterday, y'all had a laughing frenzy that went on.
For like 2 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah,
man, my
again.
neighbor in the 8700 block of Blitzen, man.
Hey,
It's a
have
rough
you guys
spot.
been seeing right now, the 4th of July, it's on Monday.
Born on the 4th of July?
But have you been seeing all these articles coming out trying to get people not to pop fireworks? It is getting pathetic. I read an article just today where I can't remember who it was that put up there, but it was basically a dog's face saying, "Could you please not pop fireworks? Can't you just wag your tail?" And they were using people's dogs, like,
Why don't they want fireworks?
and they're using dogs because they're saying that your fireworks will make your dog scared.
make dogs
and so-
scared? Yeah, put them in the basement for a little bit.
And I was like, you know, hey, okay, we won't pop fireworks. We'll go grab the
I
guns.
just made my dog be outside, and he got over it. I made him outside. He didn't like it. Then he got over it.
But there's we pop fireworks because we're celebrating the fact that we have our freedom, and fireworks is a way for us to show, hey, freedom.
Yeah.
And now freedom's gone. Yeah. Like you can't. But I love it during the time of the pandemic. You remember that drone video that went over?
LA went over LA.
So good.
Yeah,
LA
that was awesome.
even. LA.
Dude, that was last year.
Yeah,
That was a
so
year
good.
ago.
Yeah,
I
Yes.
think.
that was
Yeah.
good. You saying freedom and fire, thinking of Bush? He's like, they hate us for our freedom.
Leave it to Bush.
Our freedom. Yeah,
freedom.
As he creates a bunch of Patriot Act and the NSA and everything else, they hate us for our freedom.
Okay, so on the Cross Politics show, Keith Laugh's day this week. He said in all week for Pastor Toby.
I know, it's been awesome.
And we didn't pay him nothing.
I know.
I didn't pay you no
I
money.
thought I was told there was a check coming, right?
Yeah, no, it's coming.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an IOU.
You tell us when you want to be receiving it, and we'll both be surprised together. Okay.
I was like, yeah, check's coming. Check's coming.
But no, man, you spending the whole week. First of all, thank you.
Yeah,
for doing
let's
that.
do it.
Thanks.
But tell everybody that you have a podcast on the Fight Laugh Feast Network.
Campus Preacher Podcast on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. It's usually centered on what I'm doing on campus. I try to record conversations. The public preaching doesn't record well between getting my voice and then the crowd's voice. So usually when I finish the day, one-on-one discussions, try to take those so you can hear like real conversations that I'm having with people regarding evangelism and trying to figure out where is somebody coming from, how to relate the gospel to this situation. And then say over the summer when I don't have content from campus, I'm trying to address be it rhetorical issues, apologetic issues, or really any other issue under the sun. So that's on campuspreacher.com. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to www.campuspreacher.com. Campuspreacher.com.
But you also do apologetics.
I do
And
apologetics.
so you'll do a video and everything.
Yeah.
But I still remember the one you did on Andy Stanley Unhitched. Mm-hmm. Like
yeah,
one
that lost me someone who'd support me between $5,000 and $10,000 each year.
Are you
really?
serious?
Yeah.
Really?
Why?
They like
They
Andy
go to
Stanley?
Andy Stanley Church. They go to Andy Stanley Church.
Oh.
So if you have $5,000 to $10,000 and you really like the Andy Stanley videos, yeah.
Everybody needs just
Did you have an honest conversation with them? I mean, kind of like.
It was just a brief kind of like, hey, this is what we do. This is where we go. We
Yeah,
respect
so
them.
there's no honest like dialogue about the criticism or the critique of what you're doing.
It's kind of that Baptistic-y, the main thing, sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and it is like there's a certain point where like it's a little bit shipped in the night, so you can discuss it. But it's like
so all it took was that one video.
I think we did 3 of them. We did 3.
No, you did a whole series.
The one
but
series, 3. Yeah, so it was
it was one because you actually came in our old studio to
old
record
school
that
studio. It was south of town.
Yeah.
I think it was on the south of town.
Yeah, so that's all it took was because here's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the fact that how many times have our Christian worldview been offended by pagans? Constantly. You can't turn on the TV without your Christian evangelical worldview being thrown on the ground and
mocked
stomped
and
mocked. And you sit there and you watch it. You still watch the halftime show, right? You didn't turn off the football game. You still buying Oreos even though they gay now.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you get a rainbow Oreo, eat it, and
so here you are.
And I think it was a pretty. I thought it was like a pretty straightforward presentation. It was like it was kind of being like straight. It wasn't like
I'm not trying to get mad at your friend. Yeah. I'm mad at your friend, but I want to be honest. I want to say, hold on, man. How many times? And you can't say this because you can't tell them, hey man, I need your money.
You're just like, well, it's their money. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do? Like,
but I mean, if there's
Well,
ever a place,
at that point, you're more concerned about his soul and his biblical reasoning than the cash that you got from him.
but not because of Andy Stanley though.
Yeah.
Because
for his sake.
Because listen, so we disagree.
Yeah.
We absolutely disagree on something that has no heretical. Me and you, you're not. I don't think you're heretical because you go there. You disagree with me on the position of it. I think Andy Stanley is tiptoeing in that direction for sure. But I don't have to feel that way about you, and we have a disagreement. But because of that, it's like, I can't have you anymore.
Yeah,
there are people who I have massive disagreements with, and I go work for them. Right, I go work for them. I labor. They're Christian brothers, and I'd have disagreement with them, and I go labor with them because I still believe in what they're doing. I still believe the fact that that they are proclaiming the truth. And so but we are so easy with each other not to have any sort of patience or long suffering. Like, okay, I am grateful. I am grateful to all our Baptist brothers and sisters who are a part of Fight Laugh Feast.
That's right.
Who know and love us. They tolerate me every show, tell them to baptize their kids. I'm grateful for them because they are saying that there is something that binds us more than our spattles, right? And they're saying, listen, justification binds us. I'll come to the table with you. Well, some Baptists, but the justification is the thing, right? Now, if that goes off, I respect them for leaving if we get justification wrong, right? I totally. But as long as that is the core, we can have all kind of spats around here and there, and we can still be unified. And we have to learn to model that even for the world. What does it look like? I know I don't want to get mad. Your friends probably like,
yeah, they're like,
but anyway. We got to model for the world what it looks like for us to have disagreements and still be unified.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? In a real way. And it's like, hey, Keith, just so you know, I go to that church. I love what you do. I love your ministry, and so I want to keep supporting you. But that one kind of hurt a little bit. Let's have the talk. You know what I mean? And keep working. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, anyway.
That just really got under my skin.
So go watch those Andy Stanley videos. If nothing else,
Yeah.
give me a couple clicks.
Yeah. Because he needs a lot of clicks to get that 10,000 back. So
just run it on a loop all night. It's not even ad. Just run it all night, 24/7.
But seriously, you have a lot of videos up on you have a few videos I did for you on your YouTube.
Yeah, we have a handful. Campus Preacher. I think it's Campus. It might be Whitfield Fellowship. Campus Preacher. Keith Darrell. Keith Darrell. Keith Darrell on YouTube. You can find a handful of videos. You got a couple of me open air preaching in New York City. Those are 6 years old, man. 2016. Yeah. And the goal, Lord willing, is to be able to get a few more videos here and there up and running, all that sort of jazz. So I think we're going to do some more stuff over the next few weeks and months, and so hopefully get some more content out there.
And so what I appreciate, so the first time I met you, you were the first person that I heard talking about. I think we talked about this a little bit this week. I
will say one, like talking in the after show or whatever. Like I'm like, did I talk to them? Like, when did I talk? You know what I mean? Yeah, and it's kind of hard because, like, especially like with abortion, like I've shared a handful of the same, and you're like, did I talk to them about abortion? Did I not? And I don't know what conversation I've had with who, and you're like, am I repeating myself to these people? Like,
yeah, you probably are. It's okay.
Okay.
You still tell the story like it's the first time. I just watch you. You've told first time stories.
The
like,
Andy Stanley videos were 4 years ago on your YouTube page.
Is it that long?
4 years.
Those
4
are
years
so
since
good.
2018 when I came here. Yeah, the first time.
If I didn't have a plan, I would run over there and say, let's just watch those, because those were so good. Such a great critique. And it was a very honest and fair critique. It wasn't like, it wasn't bitter at all. It was just like, hey, man, this is a theological issue. This is a massive problem. And going down this road is going to have some consequences that we don't want if we unhitch the Old Testament from the New Testament.
Yeah.
But I brought that up because the first time I met you, you were I did some videos for you. I was like, man, these would be really good for you. And you did them, but I didn't know how gifted you were at working through the scriptures. And you were talking about sweat and how sweat was part of the curse. And then you launched into all sorts of other Bible issues that are untouched by a lot of evangelicals because they don't know how to deal with them or answer them. And so as we were doing the wrap up of the show, I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw one on Keith. I want to see if he can give me a summary of Leviticus. Now, there's a lot of books in the Bible you can give a summary of. People were like, give me a summary of Romans. Some people want Ephesians. They take Colossians, Galatians, like Genesis. I'll do a summary of Genesis. But I was like, I'm going to make it hard for him. Like, I want Keith to do a summary of Leviticus.
Yeah, and so off the cuff, we'll see what we can do.
Straight up off the cuff,
off the cuff. So the basic gist is this. So everything, you just need to marinate in Genesis 1, 2, and 3. And once you're kind of steeped there, kind of the rest of the Bible is kind of built at. It's kind of like the old classic, like everything I learned, everything I ever needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten. Obviously not really true, but it's basically there in seed form. And so kind of a little bit taking the idea from like your Hardest of Voss and biblical theology is that the Bible starts off as like kind of a seed, and then it kind of grows into a full-grown oak sort of thing. And so all of that stuff is there in the garden. And so if I was to give a summary, my basic take on what Leviticus is going to be is, if you think of the garden, you had even this sort of thing, like when you start studying the Bible, you realize there's a land of Eden. In the land of Eden, there's a garden, and then you kind of have the rest of the world. Whereas, like, I remember, first time I ever read the Bible, I just assumed the whole world was like the Garden of Eden. You know what I mean? And so what you really have going on there is the Holy of Holies, the holy place, and then you kind of have the outer courts and the rest of the world. Right. And so the tabernacle that Moses is at, that they structured at the end of Exodus that they're having them build. So Moses is there, God's speaking to him. So it's basically, how do we get back into the presence of God? And so if you remember when they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, you have a flaming sword. So the first, I believe it's 5 chapters, really the first 10 chapters deals with either sacrifice or the priests and their ordination in order to serve in the tabernacle. And so not everybody, all right, even this, Adam was originally, when he's to work and keep the garden, all of that is priestly language. So in Numbers chapter 3, that language of keeping and guarding is there in Numbers chapter 3. And so if something unclean came into the tabernacle, the priests were to kill it. And so I think what's going on there with Adam, when the serpent comes in to deceive the woman, he should have been killing that serpent coming in. So what's going on throughout the first 10 chapters of Leviticus, and kind of the thing I think is really cool, is basically how we get back into God's presence. And that's what's going on there. And then in 11 through 15, actually, this is like, we did a video on this, and I believe it was you and I that did this video, and it's got pretty good run, is basically like, when we think of the dietary laws, like, why aren't they allowed to eat these sorts of things? And I think it's related to the fall. So in Genesis 3:15, I think it is, maybe 3:16, the serpent will crawl on his belly. At the end of Leviticus 11, I think it's verse 42, that same language is picked up there. That basically the things that are in the belly, that are in the dust of the earth, are the things that they're not allowed to eat. And so when you're an Israelite and you're sitting there and you're eating your plate, you have in the back of your head the fall, and the world around you is symbolic of that. So the things that are crawling in the dust of the earth, like the serpent, you're not allowed to eat those things. And so they're not these arbitrary things. So sometimes, like when you read like the Leviticus 11 and the food laws, what's going on there, people are like, oh, it's because pigs were unclean. You get like trichinosis or whatever it is. And you're just like, but I think what's going on biblically with the moral laws, including the dietary laws, is much more theological in nature rather than your health. You know what I mean? Because like, even nowadays, people's like, oh, I eat clean. Well, that's not what Leviticus is 11 about. It's about the fall and what's going on in the world and how the plate's symbolic of that.
Can I pause you real quick? Okay, so it's funny you said that. All I can think about is the cosmological realities of how the world is inside of that, right? So it's like, hey, this is what happened. There's a fall here, and you're seeing it every time you come to your plate to eat, right? And I don't think that we should think, when people talk about eating clean and other things like that, they're actually saying something about how the world is being made or how the world is made. So anytime we are dealing with things in reality there's always a supernatural something that they point to about the way the world's made, cosmological. Everything's a cosmological argument when we talk about this.
Yeah.
And you can't miss that. The same thing is happening right here in Scripture. All right.
And you do. You totally have that analog going on all the time. That the world has its alternative clean plates. You know what I mean? The things you're allowed to eat, the clean and unclean food. Everybody has it. You know what I mean? So the question becomes, who determines it and how do you have it? Actually, a great article, R.J. Rushdoony's The Kingdom of Satan, I think is what it is.
The Kingdom of Satan?
The Kingdom of Satan. And and his opening paragraph there shaped me for the rest of my life. And he basically lays that out. Everybody has a doctrine of sovereignty. The question is, who's the sovereign? Everybody has a doctrine of atonement. What's the doctrine of, how are we getting to atonement? Everybody has to deal with guilt. How do we deal with guilt? So everybody has those categories. So like you were pointing out, we have that. How do we deal with it? Because you can't escape God's world. That's
I didn't want to interrupt you. I just want to
you're good. You're good. And then in Leviticus 12, I think it's just 12, it goes through women after childbirth. What happens to Eve? There's judgment upon her. That deals with childbirth. That's why Leviticus 12 deals with women after childbirth being unclean and all that sort of stuff. Because again, even when they're giving childbirth, it's related to the fall. And then in, I think it's 13, 14, and 15, you have stuff coming out of men's pores and all that sort of jazz, which deals with the sweat of the brow and the fall of Adam. And then if God's going to dwell in their presence, sin contaminates things. And so even like I'm doing an interview tomorrow for whatever reason on the environment, and you think of pollution, sin pollutes the world. Do you know what I mean? So when you pollute a river, it kills everything in it. When you sin, you kind of kill everything in it. And so
Isaiah 4.
So like in Leviticus chapter 16, once a year, you kind of have like your spring cleaning. You know what I mean? Everything needs to get cleaned up. And so sin contaminates everything. And like every morning and every night, they're offering up bulls and goats. And even just think about that for a second. If you're an Israelite and you have this tabernacle there, you're always hearing animals being killed, the burning sacrifices going on. The smells. Your whole world is reminding you of sin. And as Christians, well removed without any bloodshed now in our, I don't think we really appreciate the reality of what Christ has done, even just something that simply. Very practically. So you think of them gathered around the tabernacle. And then from there, if you're going to live in God's presence, I'm a little blank on like 17 and 18 right now. But even, all right,
I'm not blank on 18. I remember 18.
Well, and 17, 18 actually, the place for us where it's important apologetically is in Acts chapter 15 when you have the Council of Jerusalem and what's required of the Gentiles in the Council of Jerusalem. So when people accuse us of being cherry pickers of Leviticus, and you say, oh, homosexuality is wrong, and they're like, you're a cherry picker, mixed fabrics, shellfish. And so what's our apologetic for shellfish and mixed fabrics? First of all, mixed fabrics could deal with that which is holy. And so it'd be the equivalent, usually when I'm on campus, I'll describe it as like me impersonating an officer. If I show up on campus dressed as a police officer doing certain things, I get in trouble because I'm wearing the wrong uniform. And so if I'm a commoner and I'm wearing mixed fibers, I'm confusing the holy with the common, and I'm kind of judgment's going to break out in the camp. And so part of our apologetic of why we're not cherry picking on issues like homosexuality, because in Leviticus 17, 18, I think it's also 19, it does address the issue of these are laws for the Israelites, the foreigner, and the sojourner. So those laws, homosexuality. So if you're a foreigner or a sojourner, you could eat whatever you wanted in Israel, but you were not allowed to engage in homosexuality. You're not allowed to engage in bestiality. You're not allowed to engage with sex with your sister and all that sort of stuff. So those laws applied. So in Acts chapter 15, the things that still applied to the Gentiles that they're getting at there are those things that apply to the foreigner and sojourner in Jerusalem, if that makes sense. And so
that distinction is important too, because there's some laws that wouldn't apply to the foreigner, even though they'd be welcomed in Israel.
Right, exactly. We got to have that conversation, because everybody's like, well, you want a theocracy, you got to kill folks. It's like, hold on. If you knew your Bible, you would know there's some laws
that didn't apply to the foreigners.
And there was a lot of room and grace for people who were,
and even like, even if we had a full tilt theocracy in Israel, you could have been a pagan and worshipped your God, you just couldn't evangelize. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Just couldn't make them known. So you have that sort of thing. And then from there, you start to, Leviticus 20 deals with death penalties. Toby's preach on that, and the various laws that bring about death.
Well, Leviticus 19, be holy for I am holy. That is the famous, it's probably the most famous chapter in Leviticus, and it's kind of the hinge that all Leviticus turns on. So it's kind of like the middle point of Leviticus that all turns on. And to Keith's point, the whole point of Leviticus is actually to teach us to be holy like God is.
And so how do we get there? And then so we have holy living, we have those laws, and then when there is sin, we have atonement and everything else. And I'm not brushed up on chapters, basically 21 through 27 right now, so I'm a little bit blank on it. But it's basically
Year of Jubilee.
yeah.
But that's pretty good, man. Like,
that was
just off the top
that
of
was
your
really
head,
good,
you're like,
I'm a little disappointed in myself. I feel like a year or 2 years ago I would have known it better.
I don't think I can do that. I would have been like,
You killed it. You killed it, King.
Leviticus points
From
to
the garden
Jesus.
to the tabernacle.
It's always the same answer.
Yeah,
though.
it points to Jesus. There are these priests. You were supposed to bring a
Nailed
priest.
it, nailed it, Knox, nailed it,
You
Knox.
all failed. Jesus had to come in and clean this all
Be
up.
holy.
It's a bunch of laws. It's legalism.
Whoa.
But let me add this: like, if you were to, sometimes you read it, you do think like, "Oh man, this is ridiculous." You know what I mean? Like, "Oh, they're doing this, they're doing," and it seems so technical. But you think of like even running this show, like you look at. Like even you running this board to me is total form. For you, it's just you know what I mean.
Well, thank you.
And so well, at least I think it is because I don't know what you're doing. But you think of a priest doing these things, you do it once. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you know how to like change tires on your car,
Right?
or you change your oil. I remember being a little kid, my dad showed me how to change the oil, but like, oh man, I have to remember all that. And then like, you're just like, oh, it's so easy to change your oil.
Yeah,
So
right.
all this stuff going on here, like even like the food, we think, oh, what a crazy thing. But how many of you are eating dogs? There's a lot of things we're not eating just because it's just the backdrop that you're in. So a lot of this stuff I think feels like harsh or legalistic, but the reality of it is like, if you're immersed in here, it's pretty straightforward.
But
stuff.
I think there's something that I remember you said this. You said basically, if you can get through the first 11 chapters, 12 chapters of the Bible, you understand everything else that's going on in the Bible. And if you study the first 11 chapters of the Bible and really study it, you start seeing it repeat itself over and over again. You did it this week about grasping, right? Well, it goes all the way back to the fall. And so now when you read the Bible, you don't read the New Testament and what Jesus does and has done and did separately from Genesis. So now your whole world is around, the whole world is restored because of Christ. Everything in the world.
I got one more thing before we wrap this thing up.
Go ahead. Preach.
It's Friday. It's Friday.
Because it deals with the grasping on the road to the Emmaus. And one of the things, because like even like being reformed, you're sacramental, and so part of going back into God's presence is this. And so the reality of it is, I didn't brush on this the other day, but I left here and I was like, oh man, I should have brushed on that. But in Luke chapter 24, verse 30, it says, "And when he was at the table with them, he took the bread." What did Adam and Eve? They took the tree. Or, they took from the tree. And so Jesus takes the bread, he blessed it, broke it, and gave it to them, just as Eve would have given it to Adam. She gave it to him. And their eyes were opened. Adam and Eve eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Their eyes were open. They realized they were naked. In participating in the Lord's Supper, they eat it, and they recognized him. And so you have a reversal of the fall when you're participating in the Lord's Supper. And so that's what's going on the road to Emmaus. They don't recognize him at first until what do? They go back through the tree. So that's what they get to do. So all that grasping, even when you take the Lord's Supper, it all goes back. You're reversing the fall. So if you want to reverse the fall, go to church this weekend, participate in the Lord's Supper, go out and preach the gospel.
Reverse it.
Okay, I just gotta say this on the way out. I don't usually say things like this, so this is, but I know I can say it safely. I don't know any other political show where you'll get something like that.
That's pretty safe.
I hope your church has communion, because after that, I want some.
Reverse.
You better.
Reverse the curse.